Hello and welcome back. It's been a while, hasn't it? I feel like that's gonna be like the new intro for like the last 5 videos. I don't even know at this point. But anyways, I'm here, I'm back. I took a wee bit of a sabbatical because I needed to really sit in that winter, in that darkness, and cut out as much noise as possible so that I could really figure out what I'm trying to bring into my life this year. And it took a lot longer than I thought. The reason I'm even explaining myself right now is because I think it's a nice segue into why I chose the sin that I chose, which is greed. This is not a sin that I chose because I particularly wanted to work with it, like in the way that, oh, I hear greed and it excites me. Like, it was actually quite the opposite of that. I didn't want anything to do with greed. I have actually had an issue with greed myself. What I mean by that is it's really hard for me to see the positive side of greed. Like, I really had to work, but I have been toying around with greed and thinking, how am I spinning this? How am I spinning this? And the fact that I was being blocked by myself, the fact that I was being blocked told me, okay, this is something you really need to work on, because why is this so hard? Like, when I think about a lot of the other sins, especially the past 2 sins that I worked with, they were very like clear to me. Like, this is how you spin it. This is how you make it this. This is how you transmute this. Like, it was very like, I know how to do this. Like, this is going to be fun. And they were fun. You know, they were very fun to work with. And I'm glad for those experiences because they also taught me a lot. But with greed, I did struggle. I'm still, kind of in the struggle bus, but I feel like I have a better like idea. And I'm also going to give you guys, hopefully, something that's going to help you if you're struggling with your sin. To me, greed is when you're taking more than you need, when you're taking in excess, right? And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not something that I consciously would choose to do. So why would I work with the sin? How could I work with the sin? And then, of course, your girl's done a lot of shadow work. And I remembered how many times, I put myself last in certain situations because I didn't want to seem greedy. And then the resentment that I held towards myself, the situation, or the individuals involved in that situation because of my choice to not be greedy, to not be, to be so far from greedy that I was limiting and taking away from my own self, And I'm like, okay, well, Jasmine back then would have never been convinced that was you hurting, that she was hurting herself. You know what I mean? Like, Jasmine back then would have been like, no, that's what we do. We sacrifice for other people because they need it more. Then I would let my ego talk and convince me, right? Like, well, you got this, girl. You don't need that extra stuff. You don't need, but they do. Like, I would gaslight the shit out of myself. But, obviously we've come a long way. Anyway, I started realizing also, working with people and talking with my friends that also had similar qualities, that a lot of the times to do the things that you actually need to do for yourself seem selfish, right? So then how do you ever get to the point where you're actually able to do those things for yourself if doing those things for yourself seem like they're negative, like they're tied to this sin of greed, this selfishness? Because greed is not just about money. Like, you can put greed on everything and anything. Even if it's not a physical, tangible resource, you could put greed on it, I think. But I digress. Again, can you tell I haven't talked to the phone in a while? Because I record on my phone. I have a lot to say, apparently. Hair. So, it's kind of like, how do we brainwash, manipulate ourselves into giving ourselves what we actually need? It's not even about deserve, it's about need. How do we get ourselves what we need if what we actually need to us seems like too much for us? Like, we don't deserve it, right? And I'm like, well, we got to be okay with being selfish, in quotation marks, because it's not really being selfish, right? I really had to tell myself, I'm like, okay, option 1, you do what other people want you to do to make them like you And maybe they do, maybe they don't, because even that's like, who knows if that's gonna actually work, right? Or you actually give yourself what you need at the risk of feeling selfish, and you're actually probably gonna be happy. Like, which one do you want? You know, because just making other people happy, it's gonna give you like a moment of happiness. But who are you with the rest of the hours of the day? You're with yourself. You're in here, right? So these people that are perceiving you, they're only perceiving you at certain moments, at certain times, and it's not indefinite compared to how much you spend with yourself. So you have to look out for yourself, how you perceive yourself first, and then you can go out there, right? I'm trying to keep this video short and I'm failing. But yeah, I took that time away from social media to really figure out what it was that made my heart sing and that brought me joy. And then I made the choice. I made the greedy fucking choice to live my life accordingly. And I only came back to Instagram literally yesterday. I'm making this video today because I am ready. And previously I would have been like, oh, but I said I was going to be consistent. Oh, but this, but I'm failing, but I'm that. I had to throw all of those things into the fucking garbage, because if I held onto those little things, I wouldn't be able to make this next step, this next level up. And that's hard to do, because on the other, you know, there's always, if you got a fucking, if you got a head like I do, it's always like this, right? All the time. It's not going to stop. And you're the boss of that shit. So you're going to decide what you're going to let control you, get to you, versus empower you and upgrade you. So long story short, I was associating greed with selfishness. And after preaching, because I can get quite preachy on my voice messages, I know. Sorry, friends. After preaching about the word selfish and how it's not a bad word, especially if you're someone who actually needs to be what they consider to be selfish. Being selfish for someone who never puts themselves first is an absolute must. And if it makes you feel like you're being greedy because you're reaching for things that you don't think you need, this is something we need to unpack. This is something we need to work on, because either accept that you're never going to do a lot of what you want to do, or you're never going to really be satisfied with life because the things that you want are out of your reach or just out of your reach, and you don't want to be selfish or greedy and reach for them, then just accept that you're not going to be happy. Like, accept that that's going to be your life, because there's no point on you trying to aim to be happy when your soul and your heart want something that requires you to be selfish, to be greedy. You know what I mean? If you are afraid that you are one of those people that are selfish or greedy, chances are you're probably not. Because people that are truly greedy at the, like, to the point where they're harming everyone in their lives, those people are usually not going to be concerned. Actually, they're definitely not going to be concerned about whether they're being perceived as greedy or not. They don't fucking care, okay? let's just put that out there, because I think that's something that should go without saying, but you never know. I was actually going to stop recording, and then I remembered that in the beginning I said that I was going to try to give you guys something that may help you deal with figuring your sin out, right? So I don't know how many of you know this, but she's a tarot reader now. Officially, she can say that because she allowed herself to, by the way. But yeah, so this has to do with, you know, a spread, if you will. The layout doesn't matter, so I'm not going to bother trying to put up a diagram here, but I will write down the questions up here. Actually, they're going to be in the description box because that's way easier. So I'm just going to go through the questions. I have them written down. This really helped me get a grasp on how to fuck with greed, how to work with greed, and really mold it and shape it with my ideology and my own barriers, which I think is the whole purpose of doing this type of like spread, is to kind of like investigate how you can really utilize the sin, especially when you're stuck on that part. Okay, so the first question is probably like a duh question, but the first question is, how can I best work with insert your sin? For me, it was, how can I best work with greed? And you can pull one card, 2, 3, 4, whatever your intuition calls you to. However, if you're not an experienced tarot user. If you're not an experienced tarot user, I would limit the amount of cards you use because you don't want to muddy the message or pull just because you're unclear and then you have 10 cards for one question and now you're overwhelmed and you can't figure it out. So that's just a tip. Okay, second question. How can I get the most desirable How can I get the most desirable outcome out of working with insert your sin? Question 3. A way to see the sin and how we can alchemize its Okay, I'm sorry. Whenever I fast, it looks like cursive and I was getting confused. So rewind. Okay, third. A way to see insert sin and how I can alchemize its conventional meaning to work in my or our favor. Question 4. A way to describe this sin's personality. And this will help you with drawing it or making an effigy as well, FYI. And I think that's the last question. Yeah, I think that's the last question because I was writing these as I was pulling. So as I kept getting answers, as I kept getting my questions answered, I would then pivot the question that I was thinking of, or sometimes I would get a new question after getting the card from the first question. And then if I felt I had sufficient information or I had pulled enough, then I stopped, which is what I did. I actually pulled 3 cards for that last question because I think to get personality, you kind of need multiple layers. So that one's the only one that I pulled more than 1 card for, just in case anybody was wondering. Okay, so I think that is a long enough video, and I will see you guys back for, I will see you guys back for the week 2 prompt, which I don't know when I'm going to get it out, but I'm going to try to catch up, which is the poem, I believe, and I've already started with the poem. I just got to finish it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Oh, bro, this is like so funny and awkward. I also like when I get like, I call it my Jafar in disguise laugh, because if you know the movie Aladdin, when Jafar is trying to trick Aladdin, he like does his magic to look like an old man with like an old creepy beggar man. I don't know how else to describe that character, but he does the laugh where he goes you know, one of those laughs, and that comes out every now and then, and when I hear it, it makes me laugh more, but then it also makes me feel awkward, and now I'm over explaining for no fucking reason. But it's been a while, and I actually missed recording, so maybe that's why like I'm like stalling completing this video. But anyways, I hope you got something out of this. If you're also working with greed, I'd be really interested in knowing how you're doing that, because I was on the struggle bus, I kid you not, and I was not on the struggle bus for the last 2 sins, let me tell you. But yeah, I hope you guys have a simple time. That was kind of stupid, huh? Oh God, I don't know. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.